Hi guys, welcome to another video. Filter context this time. You cannot really use Power BI unless you know how to write DAX. And you shouldn't be writing DAX unless you understand filter context. In this video I'm going to explain the basics of filter context in just a few minutes. So stay tuned. So here we are. I have a very simple visual here on my canvas. I slice by client name and I determine their sales. This is a measure getting evaluated within filter context. Power BI is going to do three things. First of all, Power BI is going to filter context. Then it's going to move on and apply the filters. And finally, it's going to do the math. So let me show you in a little bit more detail. I have that same table here. So let me just remove the values because I want to show how they get calculated. First of all, the filter context gets filled. So that means that whatever is in the row header is going to get entered into that filter context. Don't overthink this. That's all that happens for now. Next, the filters are going to get applied. Whatever has been entered into the filter context is going to get filtered on. So that clients table is going to get filtered down to that client Amazon. And due to the relationship, that filter is going to pass to the sales table. So now also the sales table is going to get filtered down to just Amazon. And then afterwards, the math gets done. So here we are in Power BI. I have a really simple visual and I slice by client name and I calculate their sales, which is a measure saying give me the sum of the sales table and then the sales column. That measure is evaluated within filter context. So first the filter context gets filled. In here for the calculation of this 11, first Amazon is entered into that filter context. Okay. Second, filter is going to get applied on Amazon. So Amazon is taking out of the clients table. So let's mimic what happens. Here it is. Here's the clients table. And I'm going to pass a filter, apply a filter on client name Amazon. So let me go ahead and do that. And now I have this entire table filtered down to just client ID number 1. Due to the relationship that client ID 1 is going to flow over the relationship from the clients table to the sales table. So the sales table is also going to get filtered down on client ID 1. So here's my clients table. Here's the sales table. Let me filter this down to just client ID 1. So here we go. And now all we have left are these two numbers, 7 and 4. And the measure sums these two values. And that's how we arrive at that 11. And that's all there's to it. There is one thing I need to add though, which only occurs if a calculate statement has been used. If that is the case, an additional step gets added, being replace whatever has been added into that filter context by what a calculate statement states. For detail, that first step is just going to happen the same way I showed before. Here, Amazon is added into that filter context. But if a calculate statement has been used, for instance, this one, calculate, that same measure. However, the calculate statement here applies a filter on Google. Okay, if that happens, then calculate is going to take Amazon out of the filter context and replace it by Google. Calculate overrides the initial filter context. So then the third step, if the filters are going to get applied, the filters are going to get applied on Google this time, and that's going to get passed to the sales table, and then the math gets done. So here we are back in Power BI, and I've written that measure saying, okay, calculate the sum of that sales and then the sales column, which is that same measure, but here in calculate, now I'm applying a filter on Google. So let's see what happens if I apply this measure in the table. Here we go. So we get the sales for Google regardless of whatever is coming out of the row header that has been entered into the initial filter context, calculate took it out and replaced it by Google. And that is all there's to filter context.